today. Hi, everyone. I just want to welcome you to a quick little functional fertility insert here. And we are here with Danielle. Danielle has gone through a fully functional program, and actually she was Fertility Foundations program. I stand corrected. And so we'll talk about a little bit of the difference with that and talk about why she chose that program, why it was a good fit for her, and talking about her exciting news, which of course you may anticipate. She is pregnant right now and in her first trimester. We were just chatting a little bit before. Oh, I'm sorry, second trimester.
Don't take that away from me.
For real, it's been so, time flies. It really flies when not pregnant, but then when you get pregnant, it just seems like it's hyper speed. So, well, welcome, Danielle. We actually know each other from college, right? Is that where we met?
Yeah. Been what, 10, 12 years? It's been a while.
Craziness. Talk about time flying, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, Danielle and I went to Westchester University. We're both in nutrition undergrads, and Danielle is a registered dietitian. And so anyway, I'll let you kind of like take over. Just tell us a little bit about, why did you seek out a functional fertility approach to your fertility in the first place? Tell us a little bit about what interested you with it.
Sure. Well, I guess just from like my own health experiences that I've had in the last, 5 or 6, 7 years, I've worked with a naturopathic doctor before. So I was already very interested in kind of a functional approach to things. And that is something that I've just had a good experience with. So I figured as we were getting ready to kind of work on family planning stuff, that just kind of made the most sense for me and my husband. Obviously, being a dietitian, I'm pretty, into health and nutrition science, and kind of food being a first line of defense in terms of our health and stuff. So that just made the most sense for me and I think my philosophies. So that's why we kind of knew that was the direction we wanted to go, rather than kind of starting out with a more traditional Western medicine fertility specialist.
Right. Absolutely. And so you kind of took a little bit more of a proactive approach. You correct me if I'm wrong, but were you trying a little bit before you reached out, or did you just say no, we're just going to kind of reach out and talk with Olivia and kind of figure out what program will be best for us?
Yeah, no, we were not trying beforehand. I had just known from doing a little bit of the fertility awareness method that my cycles were irregular. I've known for, the last 5 or however many years that my hormones have been kind of weird. So I kind of just anticipated that we might have some struggles there. And I think that the kind of proactive approach of kind of getting all my ducks in a row, so to speak, before trying, just made the most sense with the way that my brain works. So that was kind of what we wanted to do, was just kind of get our minds and bodies in the best kind of place possible before actually trying to conceive, just to try and, increase the chances of having a really good outcome, and hopefully decreasing, the risk of, something kind of going wrong, and, chromosomal abnormalities, all that stuff. We just kind of wanted to get everything in order first.
I love that. I really love that. Of course, I have people all on different points of their trying to conceive journey, kind of asking questions and inquiring about this approach. And I love when people come in kind of before they've been through, I just say, some challenges, right? Because, more challenges we go through. And oftentimes I find this in functional medicine in general. I mean, I've been in this kind of more this field for almost 8 years now, 8 to 9 years now. And, it seems like a lot of people that kind of finally find functional health are people that are at the end of their rope, right? And they're like, I've tried everything. I've done everything. We've been through all this emotional and, financial and, just stress and, just kind of going through other practitioners they didn't really feel heard by. And then they find functional medicine. And it's it's a good thing. I'm so happy that they're here, but also it's it's just a lot of stuff that you've already been through. And I love when we can get people at the beginning of their journey to say, hey, let's optimize and try to even avoid any of that, and really just go forward in the best way possible. So I love that. And that's why she actually did a fertility foundations program, which wasn't as huge as my 3-month fully functional fertility program. But we did include the Dutch test in your program. And tell us a little bit about, Dana, because you mentioned, you kind of had like maybe a little hormonal things going on. You knew things weren't quite exactly where they needed to be. Tell us about your experience with the Dutch test. Just like, what was that like for you?
I mean, it's definitely, it was not the easiest kind of test to take, just because of how long, it is, because it's over a complete cycle. So, that part is just a lot of waiting, because I wanted those results badly.
Yes.
So you do have to kind of wait a while to take the test and then wait on the results. But that was really great. I had hormone testing before, several years ago, and had been told that my progesterone was really low, and that like I probably wouldn't, really be able to conceive with my progesterone being that low. So I had kind of anticipated that, but the difference with the Dutch test and having it tested throughout your whole menstrual cycle is that I could see that it wasn't necessarily that like I wasn't producing enough progesterone. It just was happening a good bit later than, kind of it should be, or the traditional, what they expect when they expect that progesterone spike. So that was, of course, great to find out of like, okay, things are still kind of working. It's just like shifted from a timeline perspective in terms of the whole cycle and where things ideally should be. So, the Dutch test gave us some good information of, we needed to kind of lengthen that luteal phase, and try and make that adjustment. And then I think there were also a couple of other things like hormones that were not quite being like detoxed out of the body correctly. So, when you've had testing before and been told that everything is, normal, that's very frustrating, because you're like, I know something's not really working optimally. So it's kind of funny. I think that things I had been told that my progesterone wasn't normal, when in fact it kind of was. It was just a little bit later. And then, other hormones that I had been told were normal. And then to find out, oh, well, maybe they're in the normal range, but they're not really getting out of the body the way that they're supposed to be. And that, is kind of messing some things up. So it's just definitely, gave you a clearer picture of what was really going on and at what time throughout your cycle. And then that laid the foundation for, figuring out what supplements, I needed to be doing to fix those things. So that was definitely, I think, like a very, very important part of, the whole fertility journey.
Very cool. Yeah. You said so many important kind of touch points there. Number one, I just love this like normal versus optimal. And if you guys are familiar with me, or like, you follow my stuff before, this is a big thing for me. And Danielle hit on this really well. It's like, yeah, you can absolutely be in the normal range of things, but is it optimal? So actually like diving deeper and understanding what's going on there to get you in the best possible position. And as you mentioned, the Dutch is, if you're doing a Dutch cycle mapping, it is a month-long collection. So you do have to wake up and pee on a piece of paper, almost like, what is it, like every other day? I think it ends up kind of being basically of the month.
Yeah.
So frankly, it is kind of annoying, and it's, it's like, oh, okay, again, I got to pee on this paper, but the information you glean from it is really invaluable. I like to say it's not just a snapshot, right? Like it's not just a blood lab that you go get drawn at, 2:00 on an afternoon on a Tuesday. That's all well and good. That does provide information. But with the Dutch, you're getting almost, like 25 different points throughout the month where you can see, just as she mentioned, well, my progesterone, it's actually in normal range. It's just a little bit different than the average person, right? Or the average woman or whatever. And again, so that's that individualized piece that comes in. So that's really cool. I mean, I think the Dutch test is always like just this waiting game, right? Because it does take, and so many people that are in the thick of it are like, oh, I just can't wait to get that back. It's, it takes long to collect.
you have to wait to start it too sometimes. Because I feel like our first meeting, you started on what, day 7 of your cycle or something, and I kind of just missed it. So then I was like, okay, wait another cycle to start it, and and then do it for the whole cycle, and then wait a couple weeks to get your results. So that's why I always tell people, if you're thinking about doing this and you're like, and time is a factor, like do it sooner rather than later, because you're not going to just know after, your first meeting with you what you need to do. You're going to have to do all this other, testing, which makes sense. Obviously, we don't just want to be throwing supplements at people. Like you want to know what you're doing there. But yeah, I always say do it sooner rather than later, because it might take a little bit of time to get those answers that you're looking for.
Absolutely. And that's such a big piece too, is the time piece. And you were so incredibly patient. I know this is something also, it takes 2 to 3 months to really change our egg quality. And so once we get the Dutch test back, the Dutch results back, we actually need a little bit of time to implement those changes, right? And see those. And for you, I know, that was also something, you really committed to that, and you really committed to bringing in those changes we made and what we found. And then really, how long was it after that you did conceive? Was it?
It was, promptly? Yeah, it was, very, very, we were really lucky. So it was kind of just like, okay, now we can try, and there you go.
And lucky you may be. However, I like to say you really put yourself in the greatest position, because you were very proactive. You were fam charting. You understood when you ovulated. We understand how to support your cycle based on your Dutch test results. So yeah, luck always has a factor in everything we do, but I would say that was a pretty strategic and very impressive setup and build up by you. So
yeah, we were definitely methodical about that. But yeah, I mean, honestly, from the time that I started charting and everything, and then working with you and all that stuff, I would say it was about like 9 months of, preparation. But that just, made the most sense to me, of like, do that and then, try and actually conceive.
Incredible. Yeah. And really, I mean, again, everyone is on such a different point. So if you're coming in and you're listening to this, you're like, well, I've already been trying for this amount of time, and maybe I should have. There's no shoulds here. It just depends on what is best for you and what direction you want to pursue. There's no too late to get going. But Danielle was really, again, I'll use the word proactive one more time, in understanding with her mind and how she would feel the best kind of approaching her trying to conceive journey, and really did what was best for her and her partner and her husband. So it's very cool. Anything else you want to throw in about the Dutch? Or I did have a quote that you had written and I wanted to share with people. So, but I don't want to cut you off if you want to throw in anything else there.
No, yeah, no, I think that was probably it about the Dutch. Just that, yeah, it's a bit of a wait, but very, very much worth it, because you just get information you won't get, elsewhere. You won't get from going to a doctor's office and asking them to test your hormone levels. You won't get that depth of information from that.
Awesome. Yeah. And I could go into, like an hour talking about the Dutch test, guys, but like what Danielle's saying is so important. If you feel like you've done all the testing under the sun and everything's come back normal, it may be time to dive a little bit deeper with a different test. And I know that can be also kind of like a hard thing to pursue, because we feel, oh, if our doctor told us to do X, Y, and Z, I did X, Y, and Z, and that's it. Totally get how we can feel that way, but there's much more that we can do. And that's exactly what functional fertility does, is it dives deeper. And so great point there. And so, yeah, I wanted to read this quote that Danielle had provided and just kind of break it apart for you guys, because I feel like that she hit on a lot of things that I try to convey about functional fertility, but in a really beautiful and eloquent way. So the question was, what would you say to someone who is unsure about pursuing a functional fertility approach? And Danielle had written back with saying these words: I would say in the long run, it's far easier, cheaper, and more pleasant than the traditional approach to fertility issues. It gives you actual answers to what's not working quite right with your body, and then a non-invasive way to fix those issues. So I love how you summarize that in such a succinct way, So tell us a little bit about just like your feelings behind that. What were you, just like what came to mind when you were sharing these words?
Sure. Well, I think, part of it is I'm of that age where a lot of my, friends are starting families, and I've definitely seen some of them, kind of struggle with conception, and going through, maybe like a more traditional route that has sometimes, taken years, and maybe not been, or certainly sounded like it was maybe not the most pleasant, lots of shots and appointments, and medications and all of that stuff. And obviously I'm not trying to knock any sort of method of getting pregnant, because whatever works for you is the
Absolutely.
right one. But I just, for me personally, I was just kind of like, what if there's a different way of doing this, and that, it, to me, definitely seemed more pleasant, and like I've said before, kind of more in line with my philosophies of, how can we make some changes through nutrition and through supplementation, and rather than kind of giving myself hormones or that sort of thing, like, can I fix my own? So that was, just kind of thinking about all the different ways that we can go through the fertility journey. That just this whole, functional fertility process, to me, I do think is, I found it far more pleasant. I mean, through eating, come on, that's great. And yeah,
Yes.
lots of supplements. But I, even though that was, a couple months of taking a lot of supplements, that still seemed like a really doable and, non-invasive, and maybe not the cheapest thing, but I think certainly cheaper than some other routes. So yeah, I think I was just, thinking about different ways that we all go through trying to conceive. And this one just felt like the kind of most pleasant one for me, and felt right for me.
Awesome. Yeah. And yeah, this isn't to say like, well, first of all, yeah, I don't care how people go about their fertility journey as long as it's honoring to them. Some people, they want to just go to IVF right away. That's fantastic. As long as you feel good about that and that's what you and your partner want, that's fantastic. Do that. IVF is incredible treatment, and we're lucky to be, living in a time where we have that available. And for some other people, there's so many different ways. This is just one of them. So yes, this is just one. Maybe taking supplements isn't someone's thing. So it may not be the best, because that is how a main therapy of kind of how we bring in interventions that we find from testing.
Mm-hmm.
And then in terms of the cheap part, I kind of want to touch on the financial part of it. Like, this isn't to say it is a commitment. And I tell people often, what I do isn't for everyone, but it is for a lot of people. And so it is an investment, in your finances and in your time, your energy. You're making changes in your lifestyle, which are oftentimes difficult. Mm-hmm. And so, it's definitely something you want to think about, and why I get this out there about different people's experiences. But it is a lot far more affordable than many other options. And if you're in that world, you kind of know what I mean. But yeah, so again, it is dependent on what you're wanting. And Danielle just kind of had a great insight into her side of it, and explaining, I think, touch on, the finances, the just understanding your body, how to work with your body, and not just kind of forcing it in a way, right? Like, just not just covering things up, which is really insightful. And what else was I going to ask you? And I mean, I feel like we touched on a lot of really awesome and helpful points. Was there anything else that you wanted to add? Oh, tell me a little bit. I did want to ask. Tell me a little bit about your hubby and his insight, or his partnership through it all. Did you work together doing things, or was it mainly you? I mean, obviously we're working with your hormones, but tell me how that worked.
No, he has been super, super involved. I think if he could actually be pregnant and have the child, he would probably prefer that.
That's amazing.
So I think this was actually really, really nice to do together, because I do think that I kind of gave him an opportunity to be a little bit more involved than maybe he would have had in a more traditional kind of fertility setting. Because there were, along with the supplements and stuff that I was taking, you had recommended some really good books that, that we had read. And so we were able to implement some supplements for him as well. And obviously, he was welcome to be a part of our meetings, which sometimes he was, because he wanted to be really involved and had a lot of questions. So, and the food aspect of things, he could obviously participate in as well. So I think that it did give him an opportunity to be involved, and he was very grateful and happy about that because he wants to be involved. So yeah, I think that was, like I said, I don't think it was just the right thing for me. I think it was also for him. This was what he wanted to do as well. So it worked out for both of us.
Amazing. I love that. I say it takes two to tango. And I think that during a trying to conceive journey, it's important to remember that you're in it together. And a lot of times, a lot of the pressure could be put on the woman, right? Because obviously they were the ones carrying the child, but it is 50-50 input, and we are making these changes together and within a household, and having that support is huge. So I'm very happy to hear that. And I mean, that just is going to continue to serve you as you go through pregnancy and parenthood and marriage and all those great things. So incredible. Well, Danielle, I so appreciate your time. If there's anything else you feel like you want to throw out there, we'd love to hear it. But honestly, I love kind of your overview, your proactive stance. You knew what would be best for you. And really you took charge of your fertility, to set yourself up for the best success through that Fertility Foundations program and implementing customized testing and protocols. So do you want to leave us with any ending thoughts?
I guess maybe one thing that we didn't quite touch on is like stress levels. And I think that is something that just, this whole approach to me was very low stress. And obviously we know that stress is important as well when you're trying to conceive. If you're super stressed out, then that's going to make that harder. So I think just the fact that it, was, you do feel very empowered because you have all that information and it's not just a waiting game. There's things that you're doing to work on optimizing things. So to me, that was very stress relieving, knowing that I was doing what I could do. So I think that is kind of another important just aspect as well. And, if you're thinking about the functional approach to fertility and you're not sure, I would just encourage you to check it out, and see if it feels, have that discovery call with Liv, and see if it feels like a good fit. Because I think for nearly everyone, it probably does, because it's just so individualized and you're getting, answers. And I just think it's super worth it. So
incredible.
That's what I would say.
Incredible. Well, thank you for your kind words, Danielle. And yes, I mean, we could, again, I feel like we could sit and talk for an hour on stress, right, on its own. And I always tell people, it's not helpful for someone to say, stress is bad for trying to conceive, so stop stressing.
Right. Okay, sure. No problem.
Yeah, done. Check. That was so helpful. Thank you. Right. It just doesn't help and actually may even make it worse. So having the tools to really help actually take stress not out, but reduce stress, right? And bring in those helpful information is really great. And I'm glad to hear. I mean, that's what I strive for, but I'm so glad to hear that that's what it feels like, because I always want to give you guys what works best for you, and understanding how to each serve every one of you to have the best trying to conceive journey possible. So that was really great to hear. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time, Danielle, and we wish you the best of luck going forward. Do you have a little bump you can show us? Or do you not want to?
Not a whole lot going on.
Just beginning.
Just starting.
Yeah. Well, we wish you the best of luck, and thank you for your time. And we will be sure to touch base in the near future as you continue. I think you actually continued to go on into a membership, my pilot membership program. She's helping me test it out and get all the good stuff for future members coming through. So we're going to have lots of good resources for you guys coming in membership. There's actually a pregnancy option and a non-pregnancy option. So really, after your time together, making sure that I'm still serving you well and giving you good info. So, all right, Danielle, have a great day. We'll catch you later.
Sounds good. Bye.